2 games. You had 3 hits last night. Just not good. And your approach at the plate is terrible. I don't know if anybody's listening to Sean Casey, but hey, thank God Andy Pettitte threw out the first pitch last night. That was awesome. But we got trade deadline tracker news that we'll be going after all day. Right now, Justin Verlander is the latest trade. He is going back to his team. He did have a no-trade clause in his contract, and he waived that to go back. But I'm sure he probably has a house there. He's comfortable in a Houston Astros uniform, and he knows Dusty Baker and his mates really well. Other than that, a lot of, smaller trades and things, meaning like Paul DeJong, he's hitting 237, very versatile infielder from the Cardinals. Bo Bichette goes down with a possible knee injury last night. We don't have the results of that yet, and so they quickly moved, and Paul DeJong is moved there. Rich Hill, was he 45?
Over the hill, Rich Hill, he and G-Man Choi, they are going to join the San Diego Padres.
Oh, yeah.
Brad Hand, no relation to the Hand teacher that is in
Mr. Hand?
Yeah, Mr. Hand from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Are you sure?
And we're on Hand's time.
I don't think you know that for sure.
I thought it was our time.
Closer for the Colorado Rockies will join the Atlanta Braves. Now, wasn't he with the Braves before he signed with the Rockies? I thought he went from the Guardians to the Braves and now to the Rockies. Maybe Kurt's going to check that out, but listen, Verlander and Scherzer leaving is not a big deal. What it signifies is the white flag. And Billy Epler, also Canha, was traded as well.
Can of corn.
So, I think that it's more or less someone's got to take the blame for this. And Steve Cohen is probably looking in the mirror and saying, it's my fault. I tried to throw money at things. I need to slow down how I run this organization. We need to get more baseball people in here to make some baseball decisions, meaning at the lower levels and getting more talent at the lower levels. And hopefully a few of these trades, they have some fruits to bear in the future. But right now, you're basically cleaning house, and you're going to retool for next year. And there's no shame in that. The shame is that the Yankees have a decent team, and they have some decent pieces. They have a really good bullpen. They have a couple of really good starters in Rodon and Garrett Cole. But that lineup is terrible. You've needed a left fielder for years you haven't addressed. Judge was the biggest deal. Bringing in pitching is something you're going to do every year. So I don't count that as a major win by throwing a bunch of money at one. Look at the Rangers. They threw $185 million at DeGrom. He hasn't done squat for them.
Right.
Hasn't helped them in any way.
Best acquisition was Eovaldi.
Yeah. So Eovaldi is the guy that you have now, saved $100 million on his contract, and he's done the yeoman's work for you, and he was an all-star. So I think that pairing him up with Scherzer is a no-brainer. But the Astros, they are going to compete for a championship. Verlander's going to try and help them do that. Some of these other teams have added some adequate pieces, but I really haven't seen a huge trade. I was thinking Juan Soto might go somewhere. You're thinking of guys that are going to be coming into a bunch of money here in the near future, or guys that have already gotten paid a lot of money and nobody wants to move. Right now, Tim Anderson not moving from the White Sox. Why not? You're not winning with Tim.
Right.
Trade him for a few pieces, and maybe you can get enough next year to be more competitive. So I haven't been able to figure out the trade deadline yet. We have 3 hours or a little bit less than 3 hours to go.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that are in the mode of going for it are really trying to gear up for this potential series that are upon them, especially matchup-wise. I love the Houston Rangers situation, or the Astros-Rangers situations the last couple of days. They're obviously showing each team that they're going for the division win, not necessarily the wild card, the division win, which, again, I know this is new. Not only do we have the trade deadline moved up, not only are we playing every team in the league, but don't forget that the top 2 teams in each league is going to have a benefit in the postseason. They're going to have the weekend off, and they're going to start a lot fresher, especially with their pitching staff.
And don't you play the second round, all those games at home?
Right. And Houston it needs some home field advantage if they want to move on in the playoffs against these really good teams. But I kind of like the little pieces that are being dealt around. I think that the Bo Bichette pickup of Paul DeJong for the Blue Jays was a necessity that happened in less than 24 hours. I mean, that probably happened 10 hours ago. As soon as that happened, they were probably on the phone immediately trying to fill in that hole that could be. And like you said, we don't know with Bo Bichette. I just feel like there's a lot of action. Yeah, there's probably some reluctance to add some of these big pieces and this payroll. And I think that was the biggest lesson for Cohen this week in this first trade deadline is years and average salary per year and how old you are. I don't think he really knew that going into the season when he picks up these two guys in particular, looking at the remainder of his roster and what he's going to have to pay for in the future. Now he knows. Now he dumped that, and now they can, I guess, build for the future, but that's not the words that he wants to hear after what he spent at the beginning of the season. I think you can really see who's in it and who's out of it today, even before 6 o'clock tonight, before the actual deadline. I think there's a lot of teams, and I'm kind of surprised. I'm surprised the Padres are still adding, honestly. The Padres, 5 games out of the wild card, could still potentially get that.
Right.
They're not catching the Dodgers.
I don't think they want to concede, but like you're saying, okay, you're adding a older pitcher that's at the back end of your rotation. You're adding a bat. You already have enough bats. I mean, where's he going to play? He can DH some, but that's a good question. Is okay. Why is this team doing more than the Dodgers?
Right.
Why is this team doing more than? Okay, so the Reds went and got Sam Mull. Now we've talked about this. This guy's a very good lefty. 25 holds over the last couple of years, only 4 blown saves, which means a lot. He comes in situations of 1 up, 2 up in the 6th, 7th, 8th inning in that area. Doesn't blow a lot of those saves. His ERA is a little bloated this year. But he's not a guy that pitches a lot. He's pitched in
change something. And when you're in that mode, to me, I don't think you're a true contender. I think you're far from that. We'll see. You never know in the next couple of hours if there is a big blockbuster deal. But for me, teams like that need so much more help in order to win series against the Tampa. To get through games in series. When we're talking about a best of 5, best of 3 for the first one, and a best of 7, you need those little pieces that get you over the top. And for the Yankees, teams like that, that's not, little pieces aren't going to cut it right now for that team. That team needs a
weak lineup, and I don't mean to get on Cabrera or Volpe or any of these other guys that they're not everyday players right now, and they should be in the minor leagues playing every day, getting their at bats, honing their skills. But Volpe is one of the guys that, okay, we were forced to put this guy at shortstop because Gleyber Torres didn't want the job. LeMahieu's not an everyday shortstop. LeMahieu's more of a third baseman, first baseman, kind of utility guy. And with moving him around, you've also managed to make a guy who's basically a 300 hitter in the major leagues now down to a 231 hitter. And I don't even know what's wrong with him. Maybe his skills are just diminished. It's like kind of Christian Yelich, but then Yelich all of a sudden is now hitting again. So, you can rebound, I guess. '29, 286, 307, 322, 274, 283. This is getting on base. This is not batting average.
Right.
It should be 350. Having Aaron Judge, the only guy over basically 350, he's at 420. He's hitting 297, only 65 strikeouts and 41.
Yeah.
If you're not going to be a high average guy, at least try to put the ball in play. Do one of two things. Somewhere in their philosophy of this analytics, where we are in baseball, these guys have kind of, the needle's gone way to the wrong side, where it's like, okay, well, the Blue Jays, that's what it's called unselfishness. There's a difference between being stupid and being selfish, and somewhere in there is the Yankees. And these guys right now, I think they're just stupid. I really do. Someone said it's okay to do strikeouts. It's okay to have low batting, but you can't do all of them at the same time. So 30 strikeouts in 2 games, you're beat badly by 2 teams you're chasing in the division, and at the same time, you bring in a new hitting coach. Helping it by going out there and saying, well, other than 18 strikeouts, I thought we had some really good at-bats tonight. That's insanity. Instead of saying, hey, listen, our approach is awful, and we've really got to get back to basics here. And he doesn't want to say that because he doesn't want to with the philosophy. It's still a bad philosophy in St. Louis. That's a good ball club. They actually have better players offensively than the Yankees, and they're trash. So I just think
so
that
weird.
It is weird because you can't tell people to do a certain thing, then they get accustomed to do it and think you're going to pull them out of that. We can't pull these guys back. It's like falling down a well. The rope goes with them. We can't pull them back right now. So now I think Steve Cohen's smart enough to go like, listen. He's not going to do it. Hal Steinbrenner, he ran and hid a month ago, and he trashed the fan base instead of trashing management and Brian Cashman, 2 guys he gave extensions to. So that's where I think the issues lie, that the guy running the Yankees is not like his father and doesn't want to be compared to his father. Be gone. He will bring in people probably that know baseball, but also know good business at the same time, and they're going to make sure that they put a good product on the field for the fans, because he's not going to rip the fan base. He's a fan. This is where I talk about Rob Manfred, Hal Steinbrenner. I don't think they're fans. Hal Steinbrenner grew up in the Yankees organization. That doesn't mean he played or coached in it. That means his dad was a billionaire that loved winning, loved the fan base. Would never trash the fan base. He would fire Billy Martin 5 times before he'd go after the fan base.
The New York Yankees, for me, in the last couple of years, this isn't one-off for 2023. We've been dealing with outs. Doesn't matter the position of the outfield, doesn't matter the inning, doesn't matter the scoreboard. That they're going to do the same damn thing regardless of what's in front of them. And that's not baseball, man. And you look at just their lineup. Their lineup switches every single day, except for Judge in the 2 spot. For some reason, that's locked and loaded for all time. But they're, Gleyber Torres leads off one. Has the ability, with like a man on third and 1 or less outs, to swing away and do his launch angle stuff. Right. And if you're going to have certain guys that do certain things, you need to put them in certain positions during the game to actually be successful. And it feels like that's not even a thought. That's the concept of scoring runs with the situation of the inning. Not even a thought in the offense of the New York Yankees. And until that changes, man, it doesn't matter. Lose baseball games to baseball teams like the Tampa Bay Rays. Like, you just look at the Tampa Bay Rays' lineup and how they conduct business depending on the pitcher that's out there, which is another bizarre thing of last night. Why we have, who was the guy?
Domingo Germán. You had Johnny waste him.
I don't
Start him today.
That. I don't understand that.
If he had that kind of stuff last night, that means he had that kind of stuff today. Just push everybody back. That would have been great. 5 shutout innings against the Rays tonight. gives you an opportunity to win the game. Again,
so true.
Mismanagement at the highest level. Here's the thing, and let me just jump on what you just said because it's brilliant. Aaron Boone's not managing a baseball game. Aaron Boone is managing the bad PR after the game.
It's a CEO.
That's his job. That's right.
Right.
And this Matt Blake dude, I don't know why you'd bring that guy in because he doesn't have the basic knowledge of major league pitchers have to do X, Y, and Z. That's their job. To get it to the bridges, to get it to the closer so we can win ball games. Period. I don't need to, force feed you like a little baby. Out, which is what I see when the Orioles are playing, which is what I see when the Rays are playing. I don't see them micromanaging to the point where these guys don't think for themselves. Years ago, it used to really pee me off that you're looking in your hat to know where to play guys.
Right. Or your wristband.
Now, is that your assessment on where to play these guys? Or did somebody who's never played a baseball game told you?
They typed it up for me.
They typed this up for you and put it there. Yeah. Put it on the catcher's wrist. Did all this. So someone's like doing your homework for you. Where people are coming in and they're like, you know what? It's like I just saw a beautiful picture online. It was the father carrying his daughter like a 12U softball stuff, carrying her equipment, her shoes, her bats, while she just walks. She's got no responsibility. She's just got to show up and play. Yeah. What are we teaching these kids? They have no accountability, no responsibility. I had a kid forget his spikes the other day. Hey, dude, you're going to the baseball field. You need two things. You need spikes on your feet and glove on your hand and your uniform, and you can play a baseball game.
Nightmare.
If you don't show up with that stuff, the basic tools,
right.
That's what we're talking about here. And so whoever the Yankees trade for, it doesn't matter because you're having someone else that's trying to tell you how to play the game, trying to do everything to help you play the game except play the game. And these guys have accepted it, and they've indoor, he tries to have accountability and be like, listen, we have not played well. This is on us. It's not on Buck. Canha came out the other day. Probably got him traded. Max Scherzer the other day. Max Scherzer said this
writing was on the wall, man.
Whoever asked Scherzer the question, you should maybe never ask that question again. Okay? So that to me, I'm starting to see a pattern with the Mets where the Yankees, it's just we're going to manage bad press, and then we're going to blame the fans because how dare you react to overpaid beer and hot dogs and everything else parking while we are a terrible product on the field. How dare you question us? That's what makes me laugh. If I'm a Yankees fan, dude, forget about the 27 championships. When are you going to be competing for your next one? That's what you should be asking management.
With the two trades from the Mets, Cy Young guys, Rangers getting Scherzer, Astros getting Verlander, they're both 60-win teams. The Orioles and the Rays are 65-win teams. How much did those acquisitions put those two teams in the AL West on top?
If somebody goes down, they're there. Or they go to the bullpen in the first couple of rounds of the playoffs if we go deep. So I think, this scenario for me every year is not just, can we get through 162 games with this club? Then we've gotten to this point where we have about 50 more games, 60 more games left. All right, we know we're going to the postseason, but we don't want to get knocked out in the first round or the second round. Right. We want to go all the way to the World Series. We want to go for the ring. So I think that's what you're seeing some of these teams do. But nobody's giving up the good pieces. We take Shohei off the table. We take Tim Anderson off the table. We take Soto off the table.
Bellinger.
If I'm a GM, I'm like, okay, well, I don't want plan B, plan C, plan D. I want plan A. And you won't give me plan A, then I'm not going to give you my best prospects. And honestly, like you saw with the Scherzer trade, they didn't give you anything. And you paid, what, $36 million of the $58? $50 million the Rockies gave the Cardinals. We're helping you and giving you the player at the same time.
And Rockies are the worst team in the NL. The Mets are getting right back to where they left off and being the Mets.
Dom Amore is going to join us, though. Let's change some gears here. We'll talk a little UConn sports. We'll talk a little bit more about MLB.